Welcome to another edition of Dashboard with Ojay. Yes, I have the privilege of hosting for this edition a legend, and let me call him a serial MD because he's been everywhere. Anywhere you think of manufacturing, this young man has been there, and I beg to call him a young man because he prefers to be known as a young man. Hello, sir. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank
Don't
you.
say you're not a sir,
I,
please.
I am not a
Please.
sir because I have not been knighted either by the Queen or by the church. So when I get knighted, I will accept that title.
So, but what's the challenge? Why? I think it's just out of respect, out of just proper courtesy that someone says sir to you.
I think for me, it is a very simple why I try to encourage first. It's about communication.
Okay.
One of the challenges we have in our society, we have a top-down mindset.
Okay.
So we either appoint people on the basis of age or whatever, rather than looking at competence, right?
Okay.
So respect doesn't necessarily mean that by calling somebody by their first name, you're disrespectful.
Okay.
So I'm trying to allow opportunity for people to feel free to talk and have conversations because they can express their point of views. I can express my point of views. I had those opportunities growing up in my career because I worked in systems where it was first name, and it allowed for a lot of expression.
Yeah. Um, do you have some awards, some national awards, some that should
How,
be equivalent to a sir in any
no,
case?
no, I don't have
Any
any.
chieftaincy title?
I don't have any chieftaincy
Why
title.
not?
Uh, I don't. I don't think. Anyway, I have a different view when it comes to awards.
Okay.
I think the best awards are the awards where you impact value on people. So if I see either people that I've worked with, supported, or vice versa, grow and develop, for me, that's the best award because anything else, look, I've seen so many awards. I have received tons of
Plaques and awards.
papers or letters
Recognitions.
either saying they want to recognize me for something or the other. I've declined quite a
Wow.
number because I ask what's the basis.
Okay.
If the basis doesn't make sense or there's no clear measure, then you know what? Let's not create. We create a lot of idols or icons out of people. We don't challenge why somebody has an award because either the parameters are not very clear. In most instances, people want to make money because you see the clause there. Okay, fine. For you to accept this, you may have to pay for an advert. And I say no. If I have to pay for an advert because you're giving me an award or recognizing me, then it's not a free thing. So lots of people get. I see examples. I see examples for the same awards I've turned down or not accepted. So I guess you've got to be comfortable in your skin.
Let's go to the end. I don't want to say the end of your life, but you're still in active working. You're still in the system. You're still working.
Yeah.
When you retire, or maybe before you retire, do you ever think about going into politics? Do you think Nigeria needs men like you?
We're all political animals, one way or the other, all right?
Okay.
So do I think I will give back to the community? Yes, I think that we all need to contribute in one way or the other, okay? What have I tried to do so far? Probably reaching out to some of the people I know and share thoughts or ideas, whatever. The way our politics is structured today, it appears a tough one, all right? If I went out and said, I wanted to campaign, I probably do not have the kind of resources.
You think so?
I know so. I don't have the required. However, I believe that as we start to drive thought leadership and having the right conversations, the opportunities might arise. I do not believe that I necessarily have to be the one to lead.
Okay.
There are younger people who are coming up, and if you can give them the right advice and support,
okay,
right, then you can help the process. Leadership is not about you being in authority. Leadership is about helping either craft a vision, helping enabling that to happen, helping drive the execution of that. And you can do it without necessarily being the guy at the top. So will I serve my community? Yes. In what form? I have no clue yet, but I can do it without being in an elective position or a political position.
Yeah, Bill Clinton in one of his books said that after having been president of the United States, that it was easier to achieve anything outside of politics than within politics, because you had to appease everybody, you have to pass it through all forms of rigorous checks.
Yeah.
But if you were just a layman by yourself, you could just go ahead and do good and do what you have to do without you going through bureaucracies and what have you. So, but you're still you might find a way of leading, helping people in your own way.
Yeah, I do.
And you see that as politics too.
I do a bit of, is it mentoring?
Mentoring?
And talks, especially on leadership, on career, on building yourself, even for small businesses, right? I also do it as part of my job, because I believe that if you have business partners who are working with you, customers who are working with you, you have a burden of responsibility to help them build sustainable businesses. So it's not just about how much money you make, it's how you build them to be sustainable. Wow. So it's not just a tick box because it's a job. I see my job as a position of privilege, right, with a burden of responsibility to help either consumers, to help people who are employees, to help our suppliers or customers. And if we all do our own bit in our little spheres, it's very easy how we can start to build the nation. We ascribe too much power to the politicians. Yes, they have, but actually we can make a difference in our own little spheres.
And do you think education would play a good
Education
part?
is critical, because education helps to address one fundamental thing, right? I have a couple of principles that I always refer to. One is that life is about choices. Now, how do you make choices? That's where education comes in, because the purpose of education, if I borrow the words of Martin Luther, is about the capacity to think intensely and make critical choices. So the reason why you learn about stuff or you learn about different things is to help you in making choices in life, because you require that. Where you have an educational system that does not build the capacity of people to think critically, you will have problems. That's why we have a lot of certificated graduates without the capacity to think. Now, people might accuse me to say, why do you say people don't have the capacity to think? But I use very simple examples. So one is the Ebola crisis. There are people who are spreading, you just shower with salt water. Meanwhile, if anybody who did basic biology in secondary school up to Form 5, you should know that that thing doesn't work. And yet, people who were educated were passing around. So when I see a lot of those things, I question the quality of the education. If you cannot critically challenge every statement that is made, and before you apply those things for yourself.
Does education and religion, from your perspective, are they things that can go hand in hand? Can someone be well educated, be the kind of thinker that you expect, and still be religious?
Again, if we go back and look at the laws of God, right? They're the laws of nature. They're natural laws. They apply everywhere. If you go, it's the same if I use the Bible, for example, right? What you sow is what you reap. There's a Bible that says, as a man thinketh, so he is. There's the same Bible that says, have you seen a man excellent at his craft? He will stand before kings. So why don't we quote those, right? Why don't we look at those? They are fundamental principles that guide life. We focus on the ones that, miracles. Yes, miracles happen, but miracles happen to show the limitation of man. Miracles do not happen to cover your laziness or your lack of having to apply yourself. Parable of the 10 talents. One was given 10, doubled it. One was given 5, doubled it. One was given 1, he buried it in the ground, right? There are many people who are burying their talents in the ground and they're expecting a miracle. He will not give you anything that you do not have the capacity to overcome. So there's no difference, right? Good education actually helps you in your religious life. Again, it's in the same scriptures that says, the best people are those who, after listening to the sermon, they go back to the holy book and they check whether what the man said versus what is in the holy book is consistent. You don't take everything your pastor or your imam says hook, line, and sinker. That shows the lack of quality thinking.
Which is education's?
Which is education. So both go hand in hand,
Mm.
right? The basis of law, the basis of having society, right? A lot of those moral laws are framed in religion, right? And why? Because religion is about you, not just your interaction with God, but your interaction with the fellow man. If you take the 10 commandments, the first 5 are about your relationship with God. The second 5 are about your relationship with your fellow man.
Yeah.
Again, Jesus Christ simplified it and says, okay, you have 2 laws. Love your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. At the heart of these 2 lies every commandment.
Yeah.
Because if you love your neighbor, you will not steal from him. You will not kill him. You will not do this. You will be considerate of his needs. Are these things not the things that if we practice, our nation will be better?
When were you ordained, sir?
I'm not a pastor. I am not a pastor, but I had my background of foundation. I grew up in the church, right? Okay. One of the best things my mom did encouraged me to get into the church. So I was in the choir, adult choir from an early age, about age 7.
Oh.
Right. I was cross bearer. I was in the boys' brigade.
Oh.
Right. I wrote my first formal letter of resignation when I was 13 years old.
Who was your employer?
I was in the boys' brigade. I was a sergeant. We were playing in a football competition. We got to the quarterfinals. And the captain of that unit, who was a soldier, felt we were too small to win. So he went to bring people from outside the church. So I wrote a formal letter of resignation to the church saying, this is not right. And it's not, and I resigned from the boys' brigade.
How did you get your infantry in that young age?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's part of, like I said,
DNA?
Maybe part of DNA, part of, will I call it, both culture from the church and the fact that, okay, my dad was in the military and he always encouraged me to think. He encouraged me to read, right? He encouraged me to stand for what I believed in.
It happens that you are a barrack boy.
Yes, I am. Unrepentant.
And so you went to Command Secondary School, Kaduna.
Yes, yeah.
How was it like living in the barracks? And would you say the disciplinary way and methods had impact in your leadership there?
Yes, it's mixed, right? You have certain things that you pick from the barracks, which is about discipline, about resilience, right? And there are some things that are not so good because the barrack can also be very masculine and therefore can also be insensitive. So you need to have a balance. The soldiers challenged us, right? Going through primary school, it was a military boss that took both us and the soldiers, took them to work but dropped us in school. And when they saw your results, the soldiers will ask why you were not in the first 1 to 3 or whatever. So it was not a good thing. The second thing is, if you were not and a girl was in the first 2 to 3, it was even a worse thing. So that's why I said the area around being chauvinistic could have come in. But I guess the balance and the fact that you grew up in the same class with girls and some of them beat your ass sometimes, so it helped to balance that. Yes, but the part of the military discipline was there. Part of they expected you to be resilient, right? You faced tough times. You did some things, you played some pranks, you got punished for it if you did that. Growing up in the barracks, even things like basic hygiene, they will come to inspect every house every week, right?
Wow.
The RSM in charge of the block will come. You will basically line up in front of your house. They will open to your kitchen, to your bedroom, to all of these things. So you had that kind of regimentation. Actually, for me, until tomorrow, I always say that my preferred profession will have been to be a soldier.
Oh, wow.
Because I don't think there's any other nobler profession than that. There's nothing that can exchange giving your life
to a cause,
and that you can never be paid enough for.
Wow.
There's no amount of money you can pay a soldier that will balance for the fact that the guy puts his life at risk for other people.
Do you think Nigeria, as Nigerians now, as a people, do you think we need sort of discipline in this time? Do you think maybe a blend of the military and then the civilian kind of democracy coming together, do you think it will because Nigeria is a different brand of people, Nigerians, then
we're not a different brand. We use it as an excuse from where we are to where we need to be. So I can only draw examples from what has happened in other places.
Okay.
So if I look at the Asian countries or the countries that moved from the third world to the first world,
Okay.
right? All of them have happened under what I would call a benevolent dictatorship.
Okay, benevolent. Okay.
Yes. So you need to be hard because there needs to be a reset, right?
Okay.
But it has to be done out of compassion. So the reason why you're doing it is not necessarily because you're being hard. It's because under the circumstances, maybe you need to break some things to reset some things. A very simple example, if somebody has built his house on a drain, right? If you're going to fix the problem, you probably you have to bring down his house.
Yeah.
Now, of course, people might not accept that, so we find ways of trying to compromise. Sometimes with a compromise solution, you will not deal with the behavior that caused it in the first instance, and you probably will not get the right kind of direction that you want to get. So, well, you can't impose military rule. Look, we have to make a choice. The thing is that until we're educated enough to understand that our votes count, and they truly count.
Do they really count?
They truly count. So
I haven't lived in the barracks.
The guys who are running away with the ballot box, who are they? Are they aliens?
They are Nigerians.
So if they understand that somebody is giving me 5,000 to mortgage my future, okay, will they accept to be used? Now, in the last election, I used the example, and I'm not going to go political, but there were candidates that were younger, who showed they had ideas. And you know what? How many votes did they get? Right, 26,000. So I say, okay, if I use someone like the former deputy governor of the CBN who contested, he had 26,000 votes. Now the question I'll ask is, are there only 26,000 people who could reason to say, So we say we want a change, but we remove ourselves from having the power to make the change, and we think that, okay, our votes will be wasted if I voted for him because he doesn't have the clout. No, the guy has said, I'm going to contest. He's not asked you for a penny. All you have to do is just go and cast your vote. But you say, no, my vote will be wasted. But you actually believe that the front runners are not the right people to vote for you. You're acting like a victim, and you're blaming other people for the outcome. So we have to accept that we're part of it. Yes, the leaders are only taking advantage of the fact that we have not recognized that we actually have the power to kick them out.
Oh, we do?
Yes, we do.
Wow. So someone defined to me that a Nigerian is the man who believes and says that every other person in his country is corrupt but himself.
No, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. We only focus on the government because that's what is visible, and that's what is easy to throw stones at. All right, just go around the corner. Now, there are quite a lot of honest Nigerians, right? So we've got to understand that. We've also got to understand sometimes what is corruption, right? That is driven by what I would call necessity versus corruption that is driven by greed. Okay. So very simple example, if a mother, right, has taken a child to the hospital and they say the child has to be operated upon, right? And without money, they're not going to do it, and the child is going to die. And the woman happens to be a cashier, and you know what, there's the 5,000 naira that what are you expecting her to do? Now, on one hand, it's very easy for sanctimonious people to say, you know what, she shouldn't take it irrespective. But you know what, it's her child's life she's thinking about. So in a way, we've got to provide the environment that removes that. If you do that, you'll be amazed at
How do we do that?
Well, one thing is that, first of all, is starting by ensuring that, okay, the people we put there to lead us are people we can hold to account. If we don't start by doing that, we cannot hold them to account for not providing those resources. So if I sold my vote for 5,000 naira, I've collected my hospital, I've collected my roads now, in exchange for 5,000. Because the man, to give you 5,000, for him to give 20 million other people 5,000 naira, where did the money come from? Is he not going to recoup his investment?
Okay, so first off, you speak so calm to be an Arsenal fan. I don't know how. I don't know how you manage to have calmness all over you, and then you're an forgive me for saying so, but I have Arsenal fans as friends.
Yes.
And they're not this reserved. They could go AYI at the spur of the moment and just go ballistic. But you're a football fan.
Yes, I am.
Do you have stakes in Arsenal, or you just the usual fan? You just love football.
I love football.
Okay.
Very much.
Okay.
I love football very, very much. I still play up till.
You still play football?
Yeah, I still play football.
Wow.
Every Saturday. I even did referee's course up to grade 2, right? With football. I started supporting Arsenal when I was in secondary school, and then it was from shoot and match, and you look at what are the clubs where you had a couple of black players. So it was like I could relate with this club because I saw more. And then as I started to understand the philosophy of the club, actually I think it was something that I believed in, and over time stayed consistent. And I also understand that in life there will be ups and downs.
Yeah.
So you've got to stand for something, and there are some things I say you can't change. You can't change your tribe, you can't change your club.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow, if you're a real fan, you can't change your club.
Yes. So we would, it doesn't matter whether we get knocked out of the league into the conference league, I will still be an Arsenal fan.
I once told a friend that if you're still an Arsenal fan at this time, you can sustain and thrive in an abusive relationship.
When you study football, and it's not just football, it's about everything about life. So sometimes it's good to have a philosophical view at life because it helps.
Is that not what you come down to because you're not winning?
Not necessarily because you're not winning, because it's a fact of life. So you're going to have it. So I tell people, and I say, just picture yourself, because sometimes for you to understand somebody, you've got to put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
So for the so-called recent winners, right? Okay, Man City is one of the recent babies on the block.
Yeah.
Right? The last count I did, they did 50 years without winning the trophy. All right? Okay, last count, Liverpool has done how many years right 30, now? Right? Without winning a trophy. Man United at a point was relegated in the second for about 26 years. So if you go through everyone has had ups and downs.
Yeah.
All right. So and it's part of life.
Except for Barcelona, anyways.
Even Barcelona, if you look at them, yes, they are recent this thing. They're still behind Real Madrid with how many Champions Leagues?
Okay, by Champions Leagues.
Yes.
Okay,
now because the thing is that when you look at the ultimate, you say, okay, it's not just your league,
local
but
league,
yes, but the thing is that so you still have that. So and it's the same thing about life. It's not about first or second, because sometimes if you're first, right? Not sometimes, every time you're first, there's only one thing that can happen.
Decline.
You can have a decline.
Yeah.
Now, the critical thing is that, are you competitive? And if you're competitive, you will always be within one band. It's the same thing when you look at businesses. Go and look at Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
Right? You find some companies that have been consistent for the past 50 years. They've never made number one. Right, but they've been in the top 5. There are lots that have come and gone, and there are lots that have come in, gone out, come in, gone out. Right, it's about sustainable success and sustainable growth, which is what life is all about. But there's some things you've got to get used to or accept. I know 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there are people I could outrun on the pitch, and therefore I played in a particular manner. Today, there are some things I've got to be conscious. You have to be conscious of your reality.
Yeah.
And therefore, there are some things that you do not, else you'll be in denial. So the other thing is that life is about faith and hope. Because if you lose faith, if you lose hope, then there's nothing to look up to. All right? So we're hopeful that it will happen. When will it happen?
Not this season anyways.
Doesn't matter. But
no, I can take categorically.
I have also seen seasons where I can go back, and sometimes if I want to give myself some. This I just play a tape of our unbeaten run and say, you know what?
Oh, that's run.
So I said, okay. So it's good to have a balance,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And which is what life is all about. I think sometimes we teach people about success. We don't help people understand about failure as part of growth.
Yeah.
Because you either make mistakes or sometimes you've done well, but you know what? Things are out of your control, right? And therefore you don't get it. What do? You go back again and you take a stab at it. So long as you're able to do that, you are always going to remain competitive, all right? And that for me is clear. The second thing I always say is that I am clear about my role as a fan.
Okay.
I'm not an owner,
Okay.
neither am I a shareholder.
Okay.
So I cannot drink Panadol for somebody's headache.
Exactly.
The man who is making the most money out of the club,
Yeah.
if he decides that that's the way he wants to run it,
Yeah.
what's my own? So I have a simple philosophy. We win, we will drink beer. We lose, we will drink beer. Either win or win, there will always be beer to be drunk. Life is
Where did you find your love for beer? I read one of your messages, your Facebook tweets now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I call it tweets now. And then you said weather conditions for today moves from light. I don't know how you put it, from light to thunderous dark. I mean, you were comparing two brands of alcohol, beer. Where did you find your love for beer? Was it from the barracks? And why you're like, you can't do without?
No, I can do without it.
Are you sure you can do without it?
Yes, I can do without it. But it's something that is on the lighter side.
Okay.
So some of those posts, look, I go into social media for fun because I think sometimes we take ourselves too serious.
And you do well for your age. Yeah. My father can't compete with you.
Well, maybe I had the advantage, but I think we take a lot of things too serious. Now, work is stressful, right?
True.
You go into situations where you have to deal with real serious issues and problems. You have to take sometimes tough decisions. We've got to find a way to smile, all right? We've got to find a way to laugh, and we've also got to find ways to make ourselves accessible.
Yeah.
Because if every time it's all serious stuff, a lot of people will not find it easy to come close to say, oh, okay, maybe I can talk about this. Every time we play football with my friends, we say there's a first half, there's a second half, there's a third half. You know, the first, second on the pitch, third half is after the pitch.
Okay.
Right? And you sit down and you relax, okay, have a drink, and that's it. Now, also, the fact that I worked in a brewery, right, also means that at least I have both from a quality control side, because I worked in quality control and I worked in sales at different parts of my career in a brewery. So it helps me understand that, look, wine, alcohol, beer, you know what, it's just to make life lighter. However, we should never get imprisoned by it.
Yes.
That's the key thing. We should never get imprisoned by it. So sometimes people find it strange that I can quote religiously from the scriptures. I share a lot of those, and then they can find a bottle of beer on my page. Yeah. Right. But I say that's why I'm not a pastor, right? Because I don't want to stand up in front of people and say this, because you will see me still holding my glass of beer.
I made a post a couple of days ago when I confirmed that you were going to be on the show, and I told my friends that I was going to be interviewing Alex Goma, and a friend of mine who happened to work where you were MD not so long ago said I should thank you that when you came into that company, you were able to eradicate the junior canteen and senior canteen, and you merged everybody together, and it helped them to aspire to get better.
A couple of things first, okay? I didn't eradicate, I pushed for it, okay? So the business eradicated it. So it was collective effort by a couple of people in the leadership for that to happen. Now, why did I do that? I said very simply, it's about consistency with the values of the company, right? We say we respect each other. All right, we treat each other with respect, irrespective of status. And there are very simple ways of doing that. And that was one of the ways. The second thing was, how do you create access? It's like the same thing about first name basis, right? So the whole idea was that if I am in my office, stuck on the third floor in one corner, and junior people cannot find it easy to come to speak to you because they are gatekeepers along the way.
Yeah.
Where will they have the opportunity for you to interact, right? Sometimes it's to share a concern, sometimes it's even to give feedback, right? Sometimes it's just to have a laugh that actually allows them to say, okay, I can have access to this person, they can share their concerns. It also helps you to get things that you can actually put back into the company in terms of, okay, we might be getting this thing wrong. Because if you don't get feedback, you might not know whether you're doing well. So I think it's important for every organization to be as open as possible.
Yeah.
Now, being open doesn't mean that you don't have different responsibilities. Like I tell people, look, the difference in our responsibilities is shown in how much I'm paid and how much you're paid, right?
Okay.
And what you bring. But the rest, the environment, we all work for one organization. Therefore, we should try to create the environment that allows all. So for the ones who are more senior, they can actually serve as role models and mentor and show the kind of behaviors that the younger ones can aspire to. For the younger ones to also see and demystify leadership, right? So that they can see that it is accessible, and these are the things you need to do if you aspire to get leadership. So basically what you try to do at the end of the day is to create a leadership culture across the organization. And for that to happen, it means everyone, first of all, has to look at himself with dignity and pride. And that's what you do. So when you create those kind of opportunities, you allow people to start to see themselves with dignity. If the environment is not right, people will tend to react to the environment, right? If the environment is full of crap, offices are bad, people will carry that along themselves. They will have this feeling of a lack of pride, or the place I work for. No. You've got to give them a sense of pride. They've got to look forward to the environment.
But does it not help? Does it not affect the fact that they see you too much and then they begin to take you for granted because they have access to you?
The access to you doesn't mean that you cannot hold people to account.
Okay.
Right? So that it's about behavior, and that's what you're trying to build, right? That respect for each other means that you also do what is expected. Respect for your colleague means that if I'm supposed to offer something to him that will help him complete his job, then I have to do that, right? So it's not that I take my colleague for granted. You calling up your colleague and holding him to account for what he has not delivered is also showing respect for the organization. So you're not bitching on your co-worker, or you're not snitching on him. No, you are holding somebody to account for something he's got to be dealing with. Now, we've got to be able to deal with that. The fact that you go out with your boss or you're free doesn't mean that you don't have delivery. I used to have an MD in one of my previous roles, and you know what? He could take you out after work till 5:30 a.m.
AM?
AM, yes.
Oh, wow.
Right?
And you have to
And by 7:30 a.m., he's in his office. And he will come and check your office by 8 o'clock, whether you're in or not. God bless you that you're not in. You cannot use the fact that you went out with him and you got back by 5:30.
What would he have done if you had denied, if you had not
it's up to you. So you can choose to say, I don't want to go. Now, there are pros, there are cons. Sometimes, okay, in wanting to go, right, you probably might be exposed because in a lighter mood, you might learn one or two things. You've also got to have the courage and the character to say, I've had enough. You know, some people cannot sit and feel that I must do everything the boss. Sorry, no, I don't do this. Oh, everybody's drinking champagne. No, I will ask for a bottle of beer. Why? I said, that's what I want. Right? And everybody's, no, I said, no, I want a bottle of beer. I don't want to drink champagne. That's what I want. Right? So you've got to be able to stand for what you believe in. And sometimes those kind of interactions help you, and they help you balance and draw the line. So it's an informal way of coaching as well, because you also start to learn, okay, how do I read people? How do I interpret what exactly? There are lots of decisions sometimes in a lot of businesses that are not taken during office hours and in the office building.
Wow. Would you say these are one of the methods or ways you climbed, on the ladder, you climbed to managerial roles? You've been sales director, you've been MDs in different companies. how did you do all of these in this, well, say 20 years so far or more than? How have you been able to sustain your leadership role and still continue to excel?
Excel. Well, I don't know if I can say that. The key thing is about applying yourself, right? Okay, there are a couple of things that are critical for you to be successful on a sustainable basis, right? You have to have knowledge, all right? But knowledge alone is not enough, all right? Your knowledge has to then be applied, which is what we call skill. Skill is just knowledge applied.
Yeah.
And that you do it over and over and over, that you become good at it,
Yeah.
all right? You've got to then have the right kind of attitude. Now, knowledge, skills can be given to you, but your attitude is dependent on you. What are the things that drive your thoughts? What are the things that drive your actions? Because your thinking determines your actions, the results that you get. That's the simple formula. It goes back to that same scripture, as a man thinketh, so he is. If you think that I need connections, right, to get a job, you'll spend your time looking for connections.
Yeah.
If you think that, have you seen a man excellent at his craft? He will stand before kings. He will spend time thinking of how to be excellent.
At your craft.
Of course, over time, it will happen. I had an incident when I was growing up. I wrote the Defense Academy exam. Went with a couple of friends to go and see. There were actually 3. We got there. They will not allow me to enter. The 2 guys had letters from some general. So they allowed them to enter to see their results. I went back home that day and I met my dad. I said, hey, come on, this is what happened. So why don't you find one of your senior people to give me a note? And my dad looked at me and said, when he joined the army, his father didn't give him a note.
Oh, wow.
So if I'm going to join the army, right, I will have to do it my own way. Now that stuck with me. And so over time, it's always been that I like to be independent, because I think that one of the best gifts God gave man is the freedom of choice. The way you build choices to be available to you is to build yourself. So you've got to build your skill, you've got to apply yourself, you've got to be resilient. Sometimes things will not happen your way. You've got to have courage, because I've challenged things that probably were being done in a particular manner, and I wanted it to be done, and I believed it should be done in a particular manner. Now, because I'm able to challenge those things, right, and they produce results, people recognize you for that. So I would have gotten away with it. I tell people I could have been sacked so many times, because I've also made mistakes in trying to do so. But if people understand your intentions, right, I think it's probably possible for them to understand that. I've made some tough choices. You know, one of the best choices I made in my career was leaving Leventis Group, where I was already a branch manager. I took a 20% pay cut to go and join Procter & Gamble. In Leventis, I had a house in the GRA, car, driver, gardener, all of those things. To be a sales rep with P&G, none of those things. And I had a Bedford truck as my first vehicle.
And you had to work more time.
And I had to work more time and no house, no car. It didn't make sense to anybody. But Procter & Gamble builds people, right? They invest in your development. They give you responsibility, most of all. So it's not a question of how young you are. They just throw you and you swim or you sink, right? But they throw you in with guidance. It's not throw you without guidance. So it's some of those principles, I saw how they helped me, that I've actually tried to replicate everywhere I've gone, to say, okay, I understand if you want to build somebody to become this, you have to go through these steps. So those are the things that have helped. I've not been afraid to say what I think, right? But I've also learned how to say it in a manner that is not harsh, or in a manner that it doesn't feel like you are not owning part of the problem. No, I will call out what we have to do, and if we disagree, I always tell my boss, you have the final authority, but my job is to make you understand this is what we have to do. Now, that's why I don't, even when I coach people, I don't tell them what to do.
So you just...
I give you principles, I ask you questions, I guide you to the conclusions, and I say, the choice is now going to be yours. Because you are the one that knows what you are willing to live with. right? I could live with the fact that I wanted to take a pay cut. I could live with the fact that I was ready to be posted or transferred anywhere. Not everybody can live with that. There's some people, you ask them to go to Ekiti State, they tell you they don't want to.
Could your family live with that? How have you been able to live these many years?
It's
being at different companies.
At the beginning, it was easier, especially when kids were younger, because school, you can move them from one school to another. I also believe that I think going through different this thing was an experience for them, right? Because yes, you get exposed, you build a wide network, of course.
Even before they settle, you take them out again?
Yeah, but at that age, because they're young, they're adaptable. Now, as they got older, of course, more secure. So secondary school, they all went to boarding school, therefore, were not affected by where we were or not. I've got to be thankful for my wife, because she's been a strong pillar in holding the home front and ensuring not just our nuclear family, but also the extended family.
Because the gods.
And making sure that things and everything is in place. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we've got to define for ourselves who we want to be, where we want to be.
Yeah.
Once we're clear about those, it helps us in terms of the kind of choices you make. I've never really been fastidious about, I want to be this title or this. No. I just feel that, okay, if you learn those behaviors and you apply them, it's just a matter of time for those things to be offered to you, which is what has happened in my own over and over again.
Wow. Yeah. So you made a comment somewhere on social media and said, whichever way you're happy, because hey, your boss is a Man City fan. So if Man City wins the league, you're happy. If Arsenal wins or doesn't win, you're still happy. Your wife is a Liverpoolian. How do you manage to have a wife who has a different club other than you?
Well, because
you guys have different mentalities.
She grew up in a different environment. That's what she chose. Sometimes I think she chose it to spite me, because she's not exactly an extreme footballer. The only thing I did was that I said, again, following biblical injunctions. Train your child in the way he should go, and he will not depart from it. And so from small, your pillow, your this, your that was Arsenal. So there's no, so she's there. The 3 kids are on my side.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's so unfair.
No. When they can now pay their school fees, they can decide where they want to go. But this is not a democracy, right? We are not voting.
What do you call this?
No. This is not a democracy.
Oh, wow.
So when they get to that stage, they will make their choice.
Do you think if you allowed them, if you gave them the right for choice, they would stick with Arsenal?
They have a choice right now, actually.
Okay, right now.
Because they're all older.
Okay.
They can make choices for themselves, right? Maybe they are being they might, okay, I want to appease them. But I think deep down, I think they are, because they understand what it is. I say it's not about, and it's also a way of saying, look, you can't jump because you are looking for something that is successful. You've got to stand for something. It's like people who shift political parties. This is the party today. Is this? No. You've got to stand for something. Now, if they decide that, okay, this is what, I'm not going to stop them, but I'm not going to use my money to buy any one of those things. So if I want to buy a jersey, I will buy Arsenal jersey for myself. I will buy Adidas or Nike top for you, but I will not buy the club jersey, because I'm not going to use my money to strengthen the opposition. It's as simple as that.
I don't know what to call it, but that is, I don't know what to call it.
No, but it's true. In my house, they know. I will not buy the opposition. I will buy you a jersey, but it will not carry
what
their
about
name.
the Nigerian jersey at
Yes,
least?
I will buy. That I will buy. I will buy. That one is clear. I'm a Nigerian true to the core. So for me, I'm very proud about. Yes, we have our own gaps and everything, but I remain proudly Nigerian anytime, anywhere.
You've worked with about 5 to 6, if not more, companies, manufacturing. Every talent mobility, moving around. I don't want to say jump around, but moving around. I haven't gone around as against stability. How is one perceived if one checks your career span, for example, and sees that you've been almost everywhere. Would it dictate that? Would you say that you're unstable, and compared to someone who's been in just maybe one or two places for the past 20 years and the person has grown and become, big there?
I guess it's a question of whatever you want. And what I say is that every company I've worked in has added value in who I am.
Okay.
Because you look at and you say, okay, you learn certain things, and you then take those things. I guess it's a question of when you look at time frame and say, okay, what's the time frame you spend? So principle for me, or rule of thumb, I say, okay, minimum 3 years, because you say in 3 years, first year you're learning about the organization, settling in, and if you learn fast enough, second year you're actually delivering, and by the third year, you know what, you're increasing in terms of your delivery. Typically, if you do that, then there should be another role waiting for you or whatever, and you go ahead and do that. Sometimes it also gets to a point where you say, okay, is there anything more I can add? Or there's some businesses where the business is stable, your future is guaranteed, but you look at it and say, okay, you'll be coasting.
Yeah.
So I've gone for more difficult things. I've not gone the reverse where I've taken easier jobs.
Yeah.
I've taken jobs that were more difficult, but those jobs have helped me to become a better person, because you also push yourself, you understand. But there's nothing wrong with staying in one company, right? If the company suits you, if you're getting the growth, if you're getting the stretch, if you're getting
the challenges
that you want, it's fantastic. The thing with hopping from one to another is, I will say, okay, there's a frame. If you're spending less than 3 years in a row, okay, you might not have enough time to either learn or to have delivered, right, something, right? My last job, I said, okay, like I said, I used the same 3 to 5 years, but I spent 9 years. So I've spent 9, 7, 5, 3. So it's not like 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, there's no hard and fast. There's some industries you get in, you're getting the fulfillment. You probably have a narrow range of options. If I take somebody who enters the oil sector, for example, right, you have a few choices. It's Mobil, it's Total, it's Shell. Okay, you are in one of them. Okay, you're doing the same thing in different way, and okay, your career is growing, you're getting the right kind of. It's very easy to say, you know what, I'm going to continue this for life, versus going into the unknown or another sector completely, where okay, some of the skills might be transferable, some of them might not be, but you might not also get the requiring. So it boils down to personal choice.
Okay.
Who you are, what you want to be, and what you have to offer. The irony is that in most instances, the organizations have come to look for me rather than me applying.
Oh, wow.
Right, so that's the way it has been. So somebody says there's an opportunity, somebody is giving my name to somebody, and somebody says, okay, let's have a chat. We have a chat, I look at the opportunity or the challenge it offers, and I say, okay, wait a minute. If it offers me this, okay, why not? Right? So sometimes it hasn't made sense to people because they can't understand why you live in this job where it seems like you're okay. It feels like, okay, you don't have, no, it's if the challenge is not the right, or the environment is you're becoming very comfortable in your job. If you're not having to think and the solutions, it feels like or you're repeating the same thing over and over, maybe it's time to move.
Wow. So what do your kids think about their dad?
You will have to ask them. You will have to ask them. But one thing they know is that, okay, I care, right? Because I let them understand why we're doing stuff, right? We bring them into, they say, we have a family chat group, right? So we throw stuff in, banter, whatever. It's
and
open.
You receive those banters and those yaps too?
Yes. They will throw it amongst themselves. They know that, okay, I have not been, how do I say it, harsh, but they don't like to disappoint, because I've seen instances where they're talking with each other and they're feeling like, I remember when my my son flunked his exams. And so they were expecting, the others were gathered behind him, feeling like, okay, how do we support you? And, you know, you're going to get killed by, by daddy when he comes. And they were sort of amazed at my reaction because I didn't kill him. I didn't say anything. We had a chat, talked about it, and I said, well, I hope you understand what the consequences are, what it means for him.
What were the consequences?
No, for him, it's like you're losing time.
Okay.
We had options. Okay, the options are like we could push him and say, you know what, can he continue with the rest of his mates, or actually, and if we thought about the finance, it would have been the easier option, because you say instead of asking him to repeat one class, right, just say, okay, because school say, well, look, if you want, we can let him go with the rest. Say, no, if we let you go, it will be the wrong thing for you, right? Yes, it's going to cost us more, but we have to do the right thing for you, right? And that was it, because it's been done, it's done. So you have to find a way of solving. What I tell parents, this is what your role is. Your house is supposed to be where your children have shelter, right? Because the world will judge them. You cannot cast judgment on your own. I remember things fall apart. Even though the gods had said Ikemefuna has to be killed, they already told, I think it was Ibirika, the old man told Okonkwo, this boy calls you father. Thou shalt not bear a hand in his death. Even though the oracle has said it has been, it shouldn't be you to do that. So if you find my son guilty of something, I'm going to acknowledge that he's done it. But I am the one that has to provide a get out of jail card for him, because the world is not going to do that.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, it becomes easier for you. Yes, sometimes it's painful. It's annoying. You think that, oh, why is this? It's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time. No. It's not about time, it's not about resources. It's about providing the foundation for them to have a successful life. So all your thoughts has to be about them. And if you think about them, you may find out that, okay, your initial instinct, because my initial instinct was to go ballistic, but I had to calm down and find a way to deal with that. So they will have different things to say. I think they're the best ones to answer.
That's good. So finally, before you go, I know you're a football fan, but who do you think is the world's greatest football player ever?
It's one of those debates that I think is needless. So I will call out a couple of people who have played at different eras, because you look at their results and say, okay, because they didn't play at the same era, right? So if you then put the differences in context, it's very difficult for you to do a like for like. So Pele played within a particular era. The individual results he got and whatever his teams got, fantastic. Clearly one of the greatest. Maradona also clearly one of the greatest. If I put the total picture of the footballing plus the character plus the ambition, I would probably say, okay, Pele, right? Head and shoulders above other people. But you know, there are a lot of other people who probably were the same, but maybe because they didn't have so many individual honors. You take someone like a Johan Cruyff, for example. You know, there's no way you can talk about the game and what is in today's game, and you cannot say both as a player and as a coach and how he revolutionized a couple of things. Today you have Messi, you have Ronaldo. So I tell people, instead of getting into the debate about who is better, why not enjoy both? We're privileged to have them at the same time, right? And you know what? It's not about who is better.
Yeah.
It is about what is the enjoyment of value that we get out of them. So I refuse to be drawn into the part of greatness, because there's only one person that is the greatest of everything, and that's Jesus Christ. Beyond that, nothing else. So
It wasn't a footballer anyways.
If he played football, do you think anybody will have stopped him?
That would have been Ojoro.
Oh, yeah. So at that time, until today, all the great footballers, right, either go to him or Mohammed when they're about to enter the pitch. When they score, they either pray, kneeling down, or they do sign of the cross. So either way, right, they're still ascribing their prowess to one person. So rather than do that, why not just enjoy what to offer? You know, one of the things I've learned from one of the games that I also play, golf, right, is the fact that it teaches you about mastering yourself. When you play a game of golf, you're not really competing against others. You're competing against yourself and the best of where you have been. I think if everyone understood that your life is not in direct competition with anybody else, but how good you can be. Have you seen a man excellent in his craft? It didn't say excellent in a craft better than the next man. Are you the best person in your, can people look at you and say you are excellent in your craft? They didn't say you are better than somebody else, right? You can't define one type of musician, excellent, a different kind of music, also excellent. You're not competing with each other because there's enough space in the world for everyone. So if we understand that, we can actually drive ourselves, drive our development, and just enjoy the journey, because you're going to get hills and valleys. You know, Mandela said something, look, journey to growth is about hills and valleys. You know, when you cross one hill, you find out that there's another one to be crossed as well. So the guys who told you the higher you go, the cooler it becomes, it's only in geography. It doesn't happen in real life.
True.
Because you climb one place, you find out there's also a lot of work and things to be overcome. And that's the way life is. So in doing that, look, let's find time to enjoy and have a balanced life. That's more critical.
Alex Goma, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Sir.